Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Trevor coming at you from Wichita, Kansas, and the Tesla FSD. Here to talk to you guys today about MicroStrategy stock MSTR. First, just let me say, if you are interested in AI, crypto, robotics stocks, definitely hit that subscribe button, because that's what we talk about on this channel. We talk about it daily. I like to talk about breaking news regarding these various industries, as well as just, how you can make a buck, how I can make a buck, what my thoughts are. You guys can leave your comments in the comment section below, and maybe we can address those in a later video. But yeah, like I said, if you're interested in this stuff, definitely don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, let's get on to the MSTR stock. Alrighty, so MSTR. Would you just look at the price of MSTR? It is, I believe, under $300. At the time that I'm making this video, it's like $289. So, I mean, that's actually lower than it was the beginning of this year, right? So January 1st. And to be fair, right, they've basically lost money in the short term on every Bitcoin purchase they've made in the past like 3 months, because Bitcoin is like 109,000 per coin right now, which is unfortunate, but it's just one of those things, crypto is a volatile asset. So it's like, as long as personally, I guess let me put it this way. Personally, I hold MSTR call options, so I'm losing a lot of money. But I don't really count it as money lost. I mean, obviously it shows up in my portfolio as money lost, right? But I'm not planning on selling these options anytime soon. They don't expire until the end of 2027. We're not even to the end of 2025. It's almost the end of 2025. But I do firmly believe that, 126K is not the Bitcoin top in this cycle. And I also kind of in the camp that like the 4-year cycle is kind of over, right? There's just too much demand for basically currency that doesn't get debased, right? That is like the new thing that everyone's talking about. It's like, you hold on to the dollar, your dollar goes to crap. And gold being up 60% year to date is definitely evident of a debasement of the currency, right? So, that's really the big deal here, is like, yeah, you can hold gold, you can hold silver, you can hold these physical assets if you want to, but I am personally much more bullish on Bitcoin and Ethereum than any sort of hard asset like gold or silver. There's just so many different ways that Bitcoin and Ethereum are much better than gold and silver. So yeah, I think that anything under 300 is an absolute steal. Like I said, like call options here are definitely in play. If you go to the irresponsibly long MSTR X group, the group on X, you'll see just how many people are bullish. And that's not everybody, obviously, but it's just like, you'll see a lot of different bullish theses in regards to MSTR, obviously, right? And it's like all these people showing like how they think October is going to be the bottom for MSTR. They're going to be a rocket ship afterwards. Now, I don't know if that's the case or not, but I just, coming from my perspective is I'm a long-term investor, right? So I invest for the long term. If I buy a call option, I'm buying it for like way out in the future. I'm not buying a call option for this Friday or a couple months from now and putting my whole portfolio into it. I'm not like that whatsoever. What I do is a much more conservative approach, and I try to take asymmetrical bets, where I think that Bitcoin right now, I don't see Bitcoin going below like 90K, 80K, and I think 80K would be crazy. I honestly think that 90K would be crazy. I don't really see it going below 100, to be honest with you, but I can't predict the future. So, with that in mind, it's like, if I personally believe that there's so much, basically upside compared to downside, then to me, it really makes sense to make it a part of my portfolio. And I'm such a big believer in Bitcoin, that a company like MicroStrategy, who is pioneering the way for the Bitcoin treasury companies, it's really hard not to jump on board with someone like Michael Saylor that had such an innovative idea. And that has also accumulated over 640,000 Bitcoins, and you've got people way freaking smarter than me saying how they think Bitcoin is just basically going to become the global world reserve currency, you know. So you got the Chamath Palihapitiyas of the world, you got the David Sacks of the world, you've got the Elon Musk has never came out and said it, but he you know, it's obvious that Elon is pro Bitcoin, just by his companies and how many Bitcoins they hold, you know. You got Andre Geek, he's a fellow YouTuber, always talking about Bitcoin. He's been buying Bitcoin since it was like, I don't know if it was in the hundreds or like just the 4 digits, like so like in the thousands or what, but dude's been on the Bitcoin hype train for forever. So I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people way smarter than me that I respect, and for these reasons I make small amounts of my portfolio correlated to risk on assets, right? I'm not 50% Bitcoin, I'm not 80% MSTR, nothing like that, right? But what I do instead is I have my call option on MSTR that expires long out from here, right? And I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just telling you guys what I personally do and what's historically worked for me, right? So I buy, when I really see like blood in the streets and I have a lot of conviction, I'll really go into, I'll get into a little bit of calls. Usually I'm just shares of any sort of asset. I'm not usually like a time-based call option type guy, but I see so much ahead for Bitcoin as far as tailwinds that it's really hard not to take leverage bets. So I have like a small call option that if it goes to zero, okay, perfectly fine, right? My Tesla stock will more than, you know, make up for the loss that I have in this call option if for some reason Bitcoin gets demolished, right? And that's the only way MSTR is going to get demolished, is if Bitcoin gets demolished. So yeah, I mean, you could also just buy shares of MSTR if you're interested in that too, right? A lot of opportunity in just the shares at this point too. There's tons of price targets that I'm seeing, like for $550, $600, $700 within the next year. So, like I've said before, the MNAV is really what's critical when you look at these Bitcoin treasury companies. You do not want to be buying these Bitcoin treasury companies at inflated MNAVs. That is one way to lose a lot of money in a Bitcoin treasury company, right? That means that you're buying into the hype cycle, you're buying into the top, okay? When the MNAV is close to 1, in other words, there's no premium to the company. Even though you've got all the people running the company, you've got, you know, the fact that they're using other people's money to buy an asset that's going to be appreciating at 30, 40, 50, 60% a year for the foreseeable future, for as far out as you can possibly imagine, you know, and yet they're paying 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% interest for this money. If you know, conform to that mindset, if you agree, if you concur, that you think that, you know, Bitcoin's going to go up 30, 40, 50% a year, then it's a no-brainer to pay someone 10% for a loan, essentially, is what MicroStrategy is doing, is, you know, paying out these dividends, paying out 10% now for a 30, 40, 50% CAGR for the next 10, 20 years. It's like, duh. Like, if you actually believe in this, it's just kind of an obvious play to make, right? As an investor like you and I, or for MicroStrategy to you know, initiate that sort of like business model, right? So yeah, it's like I always say, it's a crazy world we live in right now. The people that, you know, that talk about how, you know, that are in their 20s or 30s or 40s, and they say, hey, you know, our parents had it so easy, you know, all they had to do was buy a house and they're rich, you know, because house prices went up so much, or they could have bought Apple stock back in the day, you know, or what. There's just so many people that I've met that have this victim mentality, saying, oh yeah, it was so easy for my parents, you know, or my grandparents to generate wealth. And it's like, it's so hard for me as an investor to not say, dude, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? It's like, everyone kind of knows that, like, you know, concentration, so concentrated positions, so like, let's say Bitcoin or Tesla or Nvidia or whatever floats your boat that you think is going to do really well in the future. If you make a concentrated investment, so you have like a significant amount of your portfolio in that investment, then, and it goes up a lot, then you're going to be generating a lot of wealth. That's why they say concentration generates a lot of wealth, right? That's what Warren Buffett did with Apple in 2015. He made like 30-something% of Berkshire Hathaway just Apple stock, because he already knew. He's like, okay, well, Apple's dominating this market. I don't see Apple being lower than it is today, right, in 5-10 years, and definitely wasn't. So he made a concentrated bet and generated, tens of billions of dollars of wealth with that position, right? Now, let's say you have you're just an individual investor, like a retail investor, maybe like you and I, where it's like you don't have multiple millions of dollars to throw into stuff, right? Then that's probably like a good play, is to make some concentrated bets and don't make any two position too large. Don't make any one position too large to where if it fails, you fail, right? Don't do that. But once you do get to the 7 figures, it probably does make a little bit more sense to just kind of preserve the wealth. It also depends upon your personal goals. Maybe you want a $10 million house to live in with your family. Power to you, dude. It's okay, you want 6 swimming pools and 18 bathrooms and 36 bedrooms. Okay. Yeah, then maybe continue to invest like a crazy person, or when I say that is really just continue to invest with concentrated positions, right? Don't diversify too much. But if you are looking to just preserve capital, let's say you're at a point in your life where maybe you're a little older, or maybe you just have enough capital, you're not trying to continue to accumulate crazy amounts of wealth. Just, you can just preserve it and try to find assets that are going to pay you between, 5-10% a year that are less risk on, that are less risk adverse, so yeah. On this channel, I like to talk about asymmetrical bets. And personally, in my opinion, right now, the biggest one I see in the market is probably Bitcoin-related Bitcoin treasury companies, even more so than Tesla, because all of these Bitcoin treasury companies are such deflated MNAVs. It's you're basically buying the Bitcoin they have on their balance sheet for what it is, but you're actually buying that Bitcoin, and you're buying this entire management team, and you're buying this entire, the fame that MicroStrategy has, that Michael Saylor has, the power, the everything, the ability to get other people's money to buy more Bitcoin. And you're also accreting Bitcoin per share, right? So that's the other really big deal when it comes to MSTR, where it's if you look at the historical performance of MSTR, it's essentially always increased Bitcoin per share. So if you're buying MSTR at a price where the MNAV, the multiple to the net asset value of their Bitcoin, is 1, so you're buying them for the price of their Bitcoin that they hold on their balance sheet, then you're going to get the same amount of Bitcoin today as if you were to just go buy the Bitcoin, right? But over time, if you hold the MSTR stock, you're actually accumulating Bitcoin because you have the same amount of shares and the Bitcoin per share is going up. So it's let's say you have $108,000, right? You go buy 1 Bitcoin, okay? If you were to go take $108,000 and put it into MSTR stock, then yeah, you have the same amount of Bitcoin basically in a shares basis, but the Bitcoin per share is going to increase, right? Because of their operations, because they accretively accrue Bitcoin for their shareholders. Not only that, but to people that say that it's a little bit more risky to buy a Bitcoin treasury company than it is to buy the underlying asset itself, Bitcoin. It's is it a little riskier? Maybe, but at the same time, MSTR and Michael Saylor have already came out and given their essentially rules for how they're operating their company, where the MNAV has to be over 2.5 for them to even consider diluting shareholders to go buy more Bitcoin, right? We haven't seen a 2.5 MNAV on MSTR in a long time, right? And like I said, it's almost at 1 at this point, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. It's very, very low, right? So keeping all that in mind, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. I just like to give my opinions on the market and crypto market, stock market, all these types of things, especially related to AI and crypto and robotics and things that I see making a gigantic impact on the future. So yeah, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, once again, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and have a great day, guys.